Hi folks, Dr. Leitner here, and this video is a short overview of the instructions for Project 1, which is a research proposal. Now, the purpose of the research proposal is to define the problem you're going to research in terms of the audience that you're writing to. And as we talked about in earlier videos, you can have the same problem, but you will frame the question in a different way according to your audience. So for example, if your problem is my favorite park is about to be torn down, you're going to write about that problem in a different way to, say, a conservation organization like the Sierra Club versus a commercial organization like the Chamber of Commerce. So, this is there's the definition of the problem, and there's the audience you're writing to. Now, those are obviously two different things, but this project kind of joins those two things together. Now, the next project after this, just to put the whole semester into context here, the next project after this is where you're going to assemble all the ingredients for your research paper, all the sources for your research paper. And in Project 3, that's the actual research paper, and then Project 4 is a portfolio. So that's how this project kind of fits into the semester. Now, before you get started, you should read the rubric, and the rubric is right here. If you click on these three dots and you click Show Rubric, okay, and you'll see the rubric has a line, at least one line for everything on the instructions. Okay, so definition of problem gets a line. Need an opportune moment gets a line. So make sure you read that to see exactly how I'm going to grade each of those. Okay, format. There's really only three requirements I have for the format. One is I'd like the title to be your central research question. So that helps me understand, your purpose. That helps you focus your own writing, because, everything that you do should be helping to answer that question. Secondly, in terms of formatting, you should have headings for each section. So, I've got, I guess this requirement here describes that. 5 sections: definition of problem, audience and purpose, urgency of problem, stakeholders, and methodology. So, this isn't typically written as an essay where it's just block paragraphs kind of stacked on top of each other, and you've got a thesis statement and you've got a conclusion and all that. This is where each section kind of has its own purpose, and they all fit together. It's cohesive, but it's not like a typical argumentative essay, but it is typical for a research project, for a research proposal, and this research proposal, this type of document, is very useful in lots of other industries other than English. Okay, it's used in all the humanities, it's used in science, it's used in business, it's used in medicine. So this type of proposal is not an arbitrary thing. This is a real document that you would write in lots of different contexts. Okay, I've got, the title, it needs to be your question, and then I've got a link to an example paper there. Okay, so let's talk about the sections. And each section has a suggested length. Okay, I'm not really grading on this length here, although your paper does need to meet the overall length of 1,000 to 1,250 words. But each section, again, these are kind of guidelines, okay, to help keep you on track. And each section also has a question that it needs to answer. And again, this is to help keep you on track and to say, okay, what am I writing in this section? If someone were to ask me this question, how would I respond? And sometimes it's nice to just kind of verbally respond to that and write down what you say or record what you orally say and have that be part of your first draft. Okay. So let's look at the first section here. So definition of problem. start with the problem before you go to the central research question. If you do it the other way around, if you try to ask the question before you have a problem, sometimes your question seems to be kind of artificial and it doesn't really fit either an actual problem or with the audience. So think about a problem that your audience actually has. That's going to be the first thing. And then you come up with a question that's going to address that problem. Another good way to figure out problems is to actually talk to people, actually have an interview. Okay, and that interview can be one of your sources for your research paper. And, you know, I like these problems to be realistic, and so talking to somebody will make that realistic because that person is presumably in the trenches doing the actual work. You know, you can conduct this interview via email. You know, you don't have to see them in person. So that can be helpful. So audience and purpose. This section is a little confusing because, you know, you might think, okay, I'm writing to my particular nonprofit organization. They're my audience. Why am I describing my audience to my audience? Well, here's kind of the issue. Imagine that you are that someone's offering you help, and then you say, well, do you understand what I need? And they can't understand. If they cannot explain what you need or what your values are, then how could they help you? It's very unlikely that they're going to be able to help you in a meaningful way. Okay, so this is where you are kind of talking to the audience and you're kind of saying, I understand you. I understand what you're about. And if you get that wrong, then they're going to be like, I don't think you're the right, you know, you're off track here. But if you get it right, all of a sudden everything kind of falls into place, and the problem and your solution and everything makes sense. So this is where you're saying, I understand what you believe in. You believe in X, Y, and Z. And here's how, and this is my question, and here's how my question is going to help you get to X, Y, and Z, how it's going to help you fulfill your mission. So this is where you're connecting the audience and your purpose, which is answering your question. Okay. Third section is urgency of the problem. Okay, and this one is important because anytime someone is addressing a problem, they're going to ask this question. They're going to say, why should we deal with this now? They're going to either say it's not a problem because they're looking for reasons not to do it, right? Because they've got their plate full already. So this one question will be, is this an actual problem? Okay, and if you can show the exigency, which is the urgent need, say, yeah, we need to address this now. This problem has exigency. And the timing. Why should we deal with this now? Why don't we wait a year to do this? Okay. And that is the kairos, why we should do something now. Kairos is the window of opportunity to answer the question, and so, or to deal with the problem. So if you have both of these things, all of a sudden, your proposal is a slam dunk. And I mean, how could someone turn down a proposal that's not only a real problem, but it has exigency and kairos? So that's why this is important. Okay, stakeholders. This is a concept that not a lot of you have had to deal with, but it is a real concept in any kind of organization. Stakeholders are just people who are affected by the situation. So if you're saying we need to change this educational system, but you're not keeping in mind like the people who are going to hire those people who are educated, the employers, if you're not keeping employers in mind, employers are stakeholders in any education. So any changes to education should take in mind the stakeholders. Or let's say you're making a change and it's something that's going to affect students. Let's say you're writing about, let's say a teachers union, and any change to teachers is obviously going to affect students. And if you don't keep that in mind, you're either going to be neglecting them or exploiting them or treating them unethically in other unethical ways. Okay, so this is really an ethical thing where you're saying, I am taking into account all the people who could be affected by this. And that doesn't mean you have to solve all of their problems. You could say, at this point, look, this is going to affect, say, it's going to affect students, okay? But I don't know how to address them right now, but I'm going to keep them in mind as I go forward with my research. That's all you have to say at this point. And methodology is just going to be your plan, okay? Who are you going to talk to? What kinds of sources are you going to check out? And you should be looking at the types of sources handout or what's it called? It's a soft chalk presentation that some of the librarians made. Okay? Identify 5 to 10 keywords or concepts that you're going to need to know. And I'd like you to just get started with defining them now. The definitions, you might tweak those definitions later on. But just say, hey, these are things I'm going to need to know. I'm going to need to know more about. And I'm going to have to apply those. You're going to be using those keywords as, those are going to be some of the words you're using in every paragraph. And here's why I say consider conducting an interview. Okay, you can, if you've already done the interview, you can write about it here, or if you're just planning on doing that, you can write about it here. And lastly, you don't need to have solved the problem at this point. If you have more than one solution in mind, or if you don't even know a solution, you're just going to say, hey, I'm going to research this problem in this way. Don't have a solution yet. That's actually great. That means that signals to your readers that you don't have an agenda. You're not trying to force something here. You're actually just interested in the best way of solving the problem. And that's the whole purpose of this. So guys, if you have questions, let me know. I'm really happy with your progress so far. And stay in touch. Take care.